Oh, hey there. This video is about the Astro series on PlayStation. That's it. That's my intro. Now, while I'm actually going to be talking about both Astro's Playroom and Astro Bot Rescue Mission, I'll mostly stick to just showing footage from Playroom, because Astro Bot Rescue Mission is a PSVR game, and I really just wanted to shine a light on this series, because it's not all that often that a video game impacts me as much as these two did. Now, I would love for more people to play both of these games, but unfortunately, they're both on systems that nobody owns. The PSVR is such a cool add-on, but unfortunately, being VR, there's really no way to showcase just how cool it really is. When VR was becoming more readily available, I never really had all that much of an interest in it. I typically refused to try it on at conventions I went to, because who wants to wear something directly on their face that has touched any of these people? So because of that, I typically had no knowledge of VR games. I'd assumed for the most part that VR was just a way to play more games in first person, such as an FPS or a horror game. Oh, and porn. Can't forget porn. I'd always thought, why doesn't anybody make any fun platformers in VR, where you could be the camera, and you could just use a normal controller? If only that was a thing. If only that existed. Cut to 2019, it's pre-lockdown, and buying things from people on Craigslist isn't weird at all. No, hold that thought. I'm being told that it is still very weird to buy things from people on Craigslist. Regardless, I decided, you know what? I want to see what this newfangled virtual reality is all about. So I did some research, and I found somebody on Craigslist selling their whole PSVR set for like $70. So I contacted them, and we agreed to meet up. After driving for over an hour and ending up in an entirely different state, we found ourselves in a park after dark. I told the person I was there, only for them to say, "I sent my son to meet you." Now, a thing to keep in mind was that the original meeting spot was the entrance of the park. So I had contacted the person and said, hey, could we maybe meet at the brightly lit gas station across the street? Because there's a lot of people there. Only for them to tell me that they were not comfortable with their son walking across that road, but they were completely comfortable with their son meeting a total stranger in the park as the sun went down. So against mine and Sam's better judgment, figured, okay, why not? Because you know what? I make smart choices. Out of the darkness, a hooded figure walked towards us. He greets me by telling me,
"My phone's battery died, so I couldn't use my flashlight."
In one swift motion, he whips his backpack around, causing a slight bit of panic at the realization that I just drove for over an hour and might die trying to buy a video game from a shady person in a park. But to my relief, there in the bag was the whole PSVR set. I handed him the money, took the items, and quickly left the park as fast as possible. Did I mention that I make great choices? When we got home, we set it up, and having no games to play at the time, we went ahead and downloaded some demos. We tried Moss, another fantastic PSVR game, and Astro Bot Rescue Mission. The demo only had a couple of stages to try, but automatically it was everything I wanted. You are the camera. You control Astro, and the way it's presented, because it's VR, you're absolutely immersed in this world. You're a part of it. Astro even waves at you when you move him close enough to the camera, i.e. you. I needed the full game, so I went out and found a physical copy at GameStop. And then I didn't even play it. I didn't even open it. It just sat there unplayed on a shelf. I don't really have a reason as to why I didn't play it. I most likely just got distracted with other games at the time. But I kept telling myself, I need to play that game. I kept that reminder for myself. And I kept that reminder for over a year. Then the PS5 came out, and it was bundled with Astro's Playroom, a successor/sequel of sorts to Astro Bot. While there are people that will describe it as just a tech demo to show off the power of the PS5, specifically the DualSense controller, it's honestly a lot more than that. Wii Sports came bundled with the Wii, and to me, that was really more of a tech demo than an actual game. Wii Sports being minigames that showed the functionality of the Wii remote, but as fun as they were, they didn't grip me quite like Astro's Playroom. The title screen alone has such wonderful sound design. Going into this thing, I was immediately in a good mood. When you start off, you're given a quick little rundown of the DualSense controller, and that's when you realize, damn, this thing's pretty f***ing cool. After this little rundown, you're sucked into the PlayStation 5 where the game takes place. From the main plaza, you have access to the 4 worlds, the PlayStation Labo where all the collectibles go, as well as a speedrun hub that has 8 more unique levels in it. It's entirely up to you to decide where to go, be it the memory meadows or the GPU jungle. Even though there's only 4 worlds, they are riddled with collectibles, artifacts, and references to numerous titles that have appeared on the PlayStation consoles throughout the decades. These worlds are lush and vibrant, with music that perfectly sets the tone and an aesthetic that is utterly eye-catching. While playing through this, I'd constantly see myself grinning like a child because I'd see a reference to another game series and call it out. Monster Hunter! Metal Gear! Demon Souls, Crash Bandicoot, Resident Evil. I won't go over every single video game reference here, but trust me when I say there are tons of them. A big part of the fun is exploring every little nook and cranny and trying to find one you may have missed. Those 4 worlds are further sectioned off into stages. Each stage introduced new mechanics to the DualSense controller. Whether it's using the motion plus adaptive triggers to get a monkey to scale a wall, or a touchpad to roll a ball. That's a lot more fun than it sounds though, I promise. When you reach the end of a world though, you come to one last room. Now I picked Memory Meadows first, so I ended up here, and this was the moment I absolutely fell in love with Astro's Playroom. Walking forward and seeing all those TVs turn on, hearing that classic PlayStation boot up sound, a wave of nostalgia just washed over me. And I realized this wasn't just a video game. It was a history book containing the chapters for the last 23 years of PlayStation gaming. And I was right at home. I've played a lot of games. Growing up with various Nintendo, Sega, and Sony consoles, I have a rather varied history with them, but it's rare for a game to actually make me feel like a kid again. I feel that joy of just being so utterly immersed in the world being presented to you is pretty rare. For every artifact I found, it sparked a memory of when I got that item in real life, or going, oh man, I never had this, but I remember a friend of mine did. I always wanted one. When I completed Astro's Playroom, I wanted more. I found myself constantly humming the songs from it. I needed to fill the void that was left from 100%ing the game. That's when I looked at my shelf of games and I saw it. Sitting there on the cover, a familiar friend. A character that, while still new to me, felt so utterly at home in my head of video game mascots. Astro Bot Rescue Mission is a perfect follow-up for anyone else who fell in love with Astro's Playroom. Now I realize that this game came out before Astro's Playroom, but it exists in that weird PSVR space of obscurity. Every single PS5 will come bundled with Astro's Playroom, and while yes, the PlayStation 5 is incredibly hard to come by still, it won't always be that way. Meaning, for as many people that do get a PS5, they'll have access to playing this gem of a game. The PSVR, however, is a bit more obscure. Not only is it a niche thing that not many people own, but you also have to purchase a copy of Astro Bot as well, which is why I think, in a weird way, even though this game came first, it's a perfect follow-up for those who fell in love with Astro's Playroom and crave more. The playstyle is pretty much the exact same, and in some ways it's even better. As I mentioned earlier, in this game, you are the camera. You control Astro with a DualShock 4 controller, and all of his moves from the Playroom are there. He, for all intents and purposes, feels just how he did in Astro's Playroom, but now, you're a part of the game as well. Replacing the artifacts from Playroom are instead bots that need rescuing. They're hidden throughout every stage, and it's up to you to track them down. Since you're taking the place of the camera, that means you have the option of either sitting in one spot and running through the stages, or getting more into it yourself and peeking around corners and looking for secrets. Sometimes you might want to stand up and get a better view of the whole stage layout. Each stage has a chameleon hidden somewhere in it as well, which can only be found by quite literally looking everywhere. Up towards the sky or down a ravine, or sometimes even directly behind you. Typically, if you listen closely with earbuds or headphones, you can get a pretty good idea of where it's at as well. Due to the nature of VR, it's easily the more immersive game of the two, and surprisingly, nothing feels gimmicky. There are times you'll get a power-up for your controller that lets you shoot a wire and hook to attach to a wall, allowing you to either tear a chunk of the wall out, or give Astro something to walk across. Using the motion controls, you can fling them around or trick enemies into getting onto the rope before bringing it back and making them fall. Everything feels intuitive, but above all, it just feels fun. Both games have coins you collect, allowing you to spin them in a gacha machine in Astro's Playroom and a claw machine in Rescue Mission, which leads to getting even more collectibles, be they artifacts or high quality models of enemies and other characters. I had originally titled this video, The Game That I Never Knew That I Needed. And while I went with a different title, I still stand by that statement. Trying these games for the first time took me back to that feeling of renting or getting a new game off the shelf, having no idea what it was while staring at the pictures of the box and just hoping it was going to be good. I have nothing against games that want to craft an immersive fantasy world, like Elder Scrolls, or have a complex story like Metal Gear. I love these series too, but sometimes it's nice to have a game that at its core isn't trying to be anything besides fun. A game that you can jump into immediately and understand the controls and not have to stress about character stat building, world tendency, or any other obscure variable. That, for me, was Astro Bot Rescue Mission and Astro's Playroom. Now, when the time comes that you are able to finally get a PlayStation 5, don't skip on playing Astro's Playroom, because it's more than just a tech demo, I promise. And even if you never had an interest in VR, as long as you like 3D platformers, you should definitely give Astro Bot Rescue Mission a purchase. And if you ever need to get a PSVR, just hit up your local shady drifter in the park. I hear they have great stock nowadays.